Nui ke te mihi aroha, ki te areke nui te kingi tēnā koe. Ki ngā rangatira mā, ngā kuia mā, ki te mana o te kingitanga, te mana o ngā hapu katoa o Waikato-Tainui, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. It is a pleasure and a great privilege to stand for the Greens today to speak, to acknowledge the work that has gone into the bill that will pass today, the sense, the wisdom, and overall the commitment that has led to the celebration, because today is a celebration that is emerging through the passing of this bill. So when Māori assert claims to be kaitiaki of a place, it is often seen as an assertion of a right, and indeed it is a right. Kaitiaki have rights to places. But what is often overlooked, that it is also an acceptance of a very significant and absolute and indeed an unavoidable responsibility. And I believe it is that responsibility, that sense of duty, that drives iwi, hapu and whānau to have the determination to maintain the claims, to maintain the effort, not just for years or for decades, but over generations. And it is that sense of responsibility and duty to our land, to our rivers, to our mountain, and indeed to our whānau, that maintains that energy, that commitment, that determination, and I do offer respect to that. There is often confusion and on occasion even mockery of Māori spirituality. The fact that Māori acknowledge Papatuanuki and Ranginui. We talk of the Māori of a river. We populate our motu with atua and taniwha and tupuna. And one may observe that as numbers of generations of non-Māori spend longer in this place, then they in their turn develop a sense of place, a sense of the value of this place. It goes beyond the aesthetic or the amenity and gets closer to the spiritual attachment felt by Indigenous people for their earth, their awa, their mountains and their sky. And it's to be hoped that this evolving awareness of the value of place and this place will lead to a better understanding and a greater support and recognition of the justice of the restitution that is signified by these settlements. Today is an appropriate day to reflect on the language of the Crown apology within the deed of settlement in 1995, where the Crown openly acknowledged that the military and the legislative confiscations of Waikato-Tainui land was simply wrong. It was wrong in Māori terms, it was wrong in British terms, it was wrong in international law. And the language of the apology included a statement that the confiscations have caused Waikato to the present time to suffer feelings in relation to their lost lands akin to those of orphans, and have had a crippling effect on the welfare, economy and development of Waikato. And I think the richness of that language does reflect on not only the damage to the spiritual well-being of people who had their place torn from them, but also that it completely destroyed a very viable existing economy, an economic base. Māori in the Waikato and elsewhere in New Zealand in the 1860s, the mid-19th century, to some extent were victims of their own success. They adapted very quickly to new crops, new means of producing food and other needs of the new settlers. And while there was in some cases gratitude from settlers, it also led to avarice and to greed and determination to take those resources away. And we know in this case it led to gunboats up the Waikato River. And those who would criticise Māori today for being overrepresented in all of the negative social statistics either do not know their history or simply choose to overlook that a highly effective, a highly efficient economy based on the available resources and with well-established use rights was completely shattered through those years and left Māori in a powerless state. And generations later, these settlements are steps towards restoring the capital base, the land base, that will enable Māori to rebuild on their own terms an economy that meets their cultural and their economic needs, and in turn will make massive contributions to the wider New Zealand economy. Sir, the river, the awa, the taonga that has been returned today to Waikato-Tainui is a taonga that is in a degraded state. It must be said that the river over many years has been polluted with human waste, with trade waste, with waste from agriculture. Its quality has been reduced by overuse. The water has been pumped to Auckland, which has offended both Waikato-Tainui and the hapu of Tamaki Makaurau. It is important to acknowledge there has been a great lack of care and respect of this taonga, and it is now a positive step towards restoring management which will be coming from a sense of aroha, of caring, a sense of respect and care and commitment to improving the status of that land, of that water. I've spoken in an earlier reading of the strength and the power of the co-management model, and I will not repeat that, except to say that the co-management structure, the shared, the authority that has been established, represents an extremely generous, a great generosity of spirit on the side of Waikato-Tainui, who could legitimately claim sole rights to manage and to use and to utilise that treasure, that resource. It is a generosity of spirit typical to most, if indeed all, of the settlements that Māori have been willing to compromise, to accept the realities of the 21st century and to take back in good spirit and good heart what is offered and to make those arrangements with the Crown. I do not wish to cloud what is undoubtedly a day to celebrate, but it must be acknowledged that the settlement process that has led to this is still an imperfect, a flawed process. It appears that in almost every case of settlement that there is a rightful return of lands to people, but also there can be a confiscation, another confiscation of lands. The settlement process too often fails to recognise the rights of smaller iwi and hapu to their tino rangatiratanga and to their kaitiakitanga, and fails to return land taken wrongfully to those, and often violently, by those from whom it was taken. The settlement process itself is in need of review in order to improve the redress and to avoid further breaches of the rights of those people. But for today, indeed, it is a day of celebration. It is a day that demonstrates that New Zealanders, Māori and non-Māori, can come to these arrangements, can meet each other's needs and requirements, and can acknowledge each other's rights. And in that sense, I finished my statements again complimenting Waikato-Tainui and indeed the Crown, the government negotiators, those who have committed time, intelligence and energy to this process. Kia ora koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.